Hi, shalom friends. You don't have to be a linguistic scholar to know the word shalom. Just about everyone knows shalom means peace or welcome. There are other Jewish words which are very common. And anyone that ever watched Fiddler on the Roof knows l'chaim, 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 to life. And very often, even people who don't know Hebrew or not necessarily observant, they'll take a drink with a friend and say l'chaim. Another word is mazel tov, good luck. So I want to talk a little bit about the word l'chaim. What does it mean, l'chaim, to life? So you said, well, what more do you need? To life. But actually in Hebrew, the word life is chai. Chayim, with the second syllable, actually means plural life. So what you're really saying is two lives. And that doesn't make much sense, does it? You want to say to life. In English, of course, you say to life, but in Hebrew it would be l'chai. Why chayim? So I want to talk about for a moment the importance of sharing. There's a charming story that happened in, I think it was in the 1950s perhaps. A very prominent rabbi in Yeshiva Torah used to give a private class to select students. And one time he called 5 of his select students into his private study and he said, we'll begin the class. However, there were no chairs. So he said, I forgot to prepare the chairs. Do me a favor, please go out and bring chairs. So each one of the 5 went out and brought back a folding chair. He looked at them before they sat down and he said, you know, I expected better. You're a bunch of schleppers. Now, schlepper is a Yiddish word. Schlepper means like you're a bunch of porters. You're just carrying chairs. And they looked at the rabbi a little surprised because he was a very, very gentle, refined individual, and he would not criticize or give a name derogatory to anyone. What was he trying to tell them? What did they do wrong? They came, they brought their chairs, and they're ready to listen. And he explained. He said, look, each one of you brought a chair. What did you do with the chair? You sat down on the chair. So who were you thinking about? Yourself. What would have been if each person that brought a chair gave the chair to their neighbor? Then you would have been thinking about someone else. And you would have been doing a good deed, a mitzvah. You would have been showing respect to your neighbor, love of your neighbor. And you would have been elevating yourself. So now, just like an animal carries a burden, each one carried a burden. You brought your own chair. But if you would have given the chair to your friend, and your friend would have given his chair to you, all of you would have had chairs, but it would have been done in such a more beautiful way. And they realized what an insight it is to life. You don't necessarily have to give up something to be a refined, sensitive, holy person. What you have to do is keep in mind someone else. I have to tell you, if someone were to ask me, Rabbi, can you think of a sad house, a house of sadness? Most people, I think, would immediately say, oh, yeah, a house where they're sitting Shiva, where they're mourning the lost one. I'll be a little bit more controversial. And I would tell you the saddest house that I know of is a bar. A bar? Why is that a sad house? Imagine you walk into a bar and each person sitting and drinking alone. As a chassid, I can't see anything sadder. Why aren't you sharing a bottle with your friend? And even if someone is good enough nature to buy a bottle for his friend, to buy a drink, it's the bartender. I grew up in a milieu where if the chassidim were together, farbrengen, spending time together, no one poured out a little vodka for themselves. It was always a friend that poured you a little cup. Now you're going to get the same amount of vodka, and you're drinking together. What's the difference? A world of difference. It's a world of difference whether you pour yourself a drink or whether you pour a drink to someone else, to offer that person something that might bring a bit of lightness to a very, very serious and heavy world. You know, look in the Chumash, in the Bible, the first book of Genesis, has a story which is perplexing for many. There was a very righteous man, so righteous that God loved him. He found grace in the eyes of God. And I could almost hear you saying it. Yeah, Noah, that's the man. And he builds this big boat, an ark, and he saves his family and all of humanity and all of the animal world. I mean, man, this person is awesome. And afterwards he goes out and he thanks God for saving him and the world, and he starts repopulating the world. He starts planting, and what he does is he plants a vineyard, as you all know the story. He drinks, and guess what happens? Something not nice, unsavory. Somehow he's undignified in his tent, and to everyone's sadness, his youngest child takes advantage and loses respect for his father. And of course, from this story, everyone is taught the most obvious of all lessons. Drinking, you got to be careful about drinking. Drinking doesn't always elevate you. Drinking can bring you down. Okay, got the story. Now let's fast forward. A famous episode with Joseph. Joseph is one of 12 brothers. He's a very, very great child. He's destined for greatness. His brothers do not know that. And through many series of events, which I cannot talk about right now, he actually is sold as a slave by his brothers, and he lands up in Egypt, and through miraculous intervention, he actually becomes the viceroy of Egypt. A wondrous story. The brothers have long regretted their rash decisions to punish their brother Joseph, so they go down to Egypt and they're looking for their brother, in addition to buying, of course, grain for the family. Joseph, the viceroy, sees them and basically plays a little game. He's testing them to see if they are a family and they would stick up for each other, or would they still allow squabbles and disagreements to break the family. So it's a fascinating story. Read it inside. But there's one verse I want to share with you. So they're standing in front of Joseph, and they're embarrassed because somehow the money that they were supposed to pay the royal treasury never got to the royal treasury. And Joseph says, don't worry, God is favoring you, and he invites them for a meal. Now, they don't know that he's their brother. All they know is that he's a viceroy of Egypt, and he's being incredibly gracious to them. Instead of accusing them of a crime of not paying to the royal treasury, he's treating them as strangers. And he says, I want to be. And it says, Vayishtu, they drank, Vayishkuru imay, and they got drunk with him. And this, we who know the story are very we're smiling. Isn't it amazing that the brothers who think the viceroy of Egypt is a stranger is actually their long-lost brother? They're actually sitting together as a family again, and there's a lot of joy. But they don't even know why they're so joyous. They just drank and they were happy. Now I ask you the question, is drinking good or no good? Because there's no mention or even a hint that this drinking with the viceroy was anything negative. And yet all of us remember very vividly that when Noah drinks, terrible things happen from it. He loses the respect of his family. So friends, one answer or one obvious change is the following. Noah drank alone. It doesn't say that Noah drank with his family. It says Noah drank the wine. He might have had very good reasons for drinking the wine on a physical or spiritual or emotional or a mixture of all of those reasons, but ultimately the wine was for him. Whereas by Joseph, he's drinking together with his brothers. His brothers are drinking together with him. It changes the whole setting. And that's why the word l'chaim is plural. When you say to life in Hebrew, it would be l'chai. Chayim means not only do I wish life for myself, but I wish life for you. And the mystics read into this even deeper. Not only do I wish you life on earth, but I wish you everlasting life, even after 120 years. Even then, I wish you life. The power of bringing someone else into your life. It's such a wonderful feeling. Someone to give to, someone to share with, sometimes someone to argue with. But the point of it is, it's beyond you. It's greater than you. There's more to life than just you. So, l'chaim, to life. Bring someone special into your life. And if you don't know someone special, make someone special. L'chaim, may we all merit life in this world and the life of the coming era of Mashiach. Amen. Let me end off with a PS, a postscript. It's cute. We know I'm Chabad Lubavitch. Chabad Lubavitch, its origin is in Russia. And it is known that the Hasidim, especially that come from the former Soviet Union, very often when they would get together and encourage each other to serve God and to keep the faith and to be optimistic of the future, they would say a l'chaim over vodka. So someone once remarked, why do they pick that beverage, vodka? Now, of course, those of you that say, well, if it's in Russia, it's a national beverage. But still, if Hasidim are drinking together, why vodka? So they say it as follows. Once that the Hasidim learned from vodka how to act. So let's use our imagination cap. You're a bottle of vodka and you put it into a freezer and you look around to see who are your neighbors. And you see frozen chickens and frozen fish and maybe frozen peas. And you look around and you say to them, guys, how come you're not moving? And they say, hey, dummy, it's cold in here. And when you're cold, you freeze up. And when you freeze up, you don't move. And the bottle of vodka is looking around and saying, who says that? Just because everyone else is cold doesn't mean I have to be cold. I'm going to stay in this freezer and remain fluid. The Hasidim learned from vodka. And that is, you could be in a situation which is frozen. But that doesn't mean you have to change. On the contrary, even in a frozen environment, you could actually be warm and vibrant and l'chaim, bring life to others. Next time you take a drink, have that in mind.